UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu to you. Undo people with a laugh and a smile, because life is too short. We just buried my father-in-law yesterday, right? He died at 75. And we're all going to shuffle off this mortal coil. Dao, help others around you, whether it's financially, with your time, just help. And do serve, but be a service, and share what you have with others. That's UnDaoDu. That's my personal philosophy. That is my quote Bible. And I'm UnDaoDu. I want to talk about how the Easter Island Ape Hypothesis, that I believe is the missing link. And to kind of sum it up really quick, what it is that there was two major flooding events that occurred. One at 5 point, well, one wasn't a flooding actually. One was the opposite of like a drought, right? It was when the Mediterranean basin went empty, and as a result, all the water that would normally go down the Gulf of Aden into the Red Sea, the place wasn't there, and it pretty much just all dried up. Okay, what that did was lower the water levels in that area by 1,000 to 2,000 meters. All right, so a lot of the ocean floor, you can imagine, would have had still deep areas of water, because the water there goes as far down as 4,000 meters. So even if it was 1,500, even if it was on the very level 1,000 or 900, all of those would have been significant, and there would have been massive areas. The expansion of the African coastline would have been huge. And think of the smorgasbord of fish available for these clever primates. Scaling these slippery and muddy floors would have dried out, and there'd have been big pools, and there'd been massive amounts of fish. And it was this way for around 600,000 years, right? 600,000 years. This wasn't a short, this was a long-ass event. And around 5.3 million years, there was a Zachariah, whatever event. There was a flooding event, and there was so much water that actually came down that it may have flooded even over like the Socotra Island, which is in Yemen, which is closer to, it's right off the coast of Somalia. Now, if these events actually happen the way they happen, and understand that I've been using DaVinci 3, which is part of OpenAI, and DaVinci 3 basically answers questions they have, but if it doesn't know the answer, it makes up answers. I wish there was a drop-down menu which says only post answers that have at least 1 to 10 references. Imagine you could put a news source, say, how factual is this? Is there any pushback for this? And DaVinci would tell you. I mean, the whole OpenAI getting rid of fake media and stuff is there. But then on the other hand, a lot of this research could have just been created by DaVinci. It's a genius AI. So I need people to fact check, go through the paperwork, all this stuff, and say no, that was DaVinci basically being creative, versus and maybe I could put everything through. Actually, I may have put everything through Chat GPT, because I don't think Chat GPT makes up stuff, but I think DaVinci Text does. Well, I've witnessed it. I know it does, and I know it does, right? So if everything I've vetted that came out of me doing research. And it's really cool because I could say, ask this, research this, summarize this paper, right? And I'm thinking that it's doing it. And I've checked some places and it's real. So I don't know whether the research that I have acquired from Da Vinci is actually 100% valid. I know it is not 100%, but is it enough valid to justify, did in fact the Mediterranean Sea drain? According to a bunch of sources, it did. The Red Sea, right? And the Gulf of Aden drain out. I want to talk about, right? But I want to talk about how the idea of the Easter Island Ape came about. And I've got another video on my other channel, okay, that talks about the actual hypothesis. Now, this is a hypothesis, not a theory. It's a hypothesis. It's a hypothesis that ultimately, I believe, validates and provides it's the missing, solves the whole aquatic ape theory, because what it does is it tells you where it happened, how it happened, right? And why it happened, when, we have the dates, where, we know where, in this area, okay, and how, by these two floods. UnDaoDu, it has UnDaoDu in it. And it's funny because, I never set out to kind of answer this thing. It was just, in 2004, when I arrived here in Japan, I knew nobody, I had no friends, I was working a lot, but I did want to answer something that really bugged me. And the thing that really bugged me is, why are there so many religions? And is there something that can unify and bring them all together, right? A kind of unifying theory for religion, philosophy, spirituality. And can this unification be grounded in science? And that's actually UnDaoDu. UnDaoDu, right? Understand, Dao, bring it all together, and do, ground it in science. So you can say the same thing with Easter Island Ape, right? What's the underlining thing that that ties it together, right? What is the thing that brings it all together? Understanding it in the sense of the missing part, and can we grind this in the facts that we know, right? The three things there. So I had downloaded through Pirate Bay all of the Great Teaching Network books, and I had them all on my iPod, and there were teacher lectures, everything from Harvard, Yale, all these famous professors, and I just would walk around listening to them all the time, just listening. That's where I learned about Alan Watts and Daniel Green, listen to all these works on quantum physics and mechanics, and yada yada yada. But there was some books I remember. I remember listening to a theory. And the reason I remember, because when I heard Elaine Morgan's talk or book on the aquatic ape, it immediately gelled, right? And I knew kind of like how it happened, because there was two things I'd listened to very closely before or after a talk on the Easter Island and what happened to the people and everything else and the location. So I was really kind of focused in on that. And then I also listened to a talk on Galapagos Islands, where, and I don't know if it was this talk or another talk, and I also listened to a lecture that talked about radical evolution that occurs on islands. Radical evolution is like, because of of these prehistoric rabbits being trapped in Minorca because of the Mediterranean baby, they turn into these huge things. And this is the same reason why we're these huge babies, fat babies are inadequate. You know, it had no need, right, to move, because there was no predators on Minorca. Island radical evolution happens on islands. The Olsuzmabachi, the murder hornets, or happen in Japan, where there is no real predators for them, only man. There's no other animal predator that eats them once they build, so they get bigger and bigger, and that's why I have these huge, hornets here. Why birds of paradise evolved the way they did? Because they have no predators, and they could focus on mating and everything else, and all the kind of mating rituals and everything else. And it goes on and on. The finches on the Galapagos Islands are a good example. Islands is really the only place where radical transformation of species happen. We are a radical transformation. We had to have evolved on an island. We had to. So I knew that, for sure, because she couldn't answer, Elaine couldn't answer like how it happened in the island, but how specifically did it happen? So in looking at the theory at the paleoanthropology, is that most of everything is in Ethiopia, is in kind of northern east Somalia area, Chad, which is more central, but anyway, up in that northern area. And the other compartment that I listened to around then, I don't remember where it was, but I watched and listened to a show on the journey of man, which was people like taking the DNA and tracking the DNA, and they found the oldest DNA in that northeastern part of, northern eastern part of Africa, where the oldest our DNA is there. So I looked at other places like this, the Seychelles. She mentioned the Dakar, I think was how you pronounce it, region. And I looked at it's not it. I threw it out. It's too close. It's like right in the middle of the straits, and it was just too close. And if you look at Easter Island, how far it is, right, from land and everything else, it had to be at what I call the Goldilocks distance, far enough to keep us there, close enough that we can escape to if shit hit the fan, if shit hit the fan. And I looked at Socotra Island, and there was, I found some report, I can't find it now, but I'm pretty, at some point they said they found someone, on the island that's been there a really long time. And I can't find it, but I remember finding that report. And so I knew it's got to be around Socotra, right? And look at Socotra. And obviously there was a connection because they found folks there that were there. So this was 2004. So in 2009, when I came across, I was watching TED Talks, and I saw Elaine Morgan's talk. She says in there, maybe some, this option 2, like how do we solve the aquatic ape theory? Some genius shows up and says, I've solved it. And I was like, I'm writing you an email. So I wrote her an email, but I was just pulling together my thoughts that I had no real evidence. I didn't do any of the investigation, and I sent them off to her. And she responded back and said, listen, I really like your Easter Island ape idea as a kind of thing, and if I ever write again, I'm going to use it, right, on that. So and that was 2009, and the thing is, the thing that I realized is how am I going to prove it? It's like all of the evidence is going to be, my theory is going to be under meters of sediment in the Red Sea. Water levels have gone up significantly. There's just so much how do you organize all this stuff, everything else? So, and a couple last week, I've been hearing about this GTP or GPT, whatever, and Da Vinci 03 and all of that. And I said, you know what? And I watched the video on it, and it says, this is kind of cool. Excuse me. You know, I'm going to play around with it. So you can go to my Twitch videos if they're still up there, right? And I make a Twitch. Whenever I'm doing stuff online, I'm on Twitch. So you can like be there like watching what's going on. And I started working on it. And when I saw the data on the Mediterranean and also the other thing, I was like, that's it. It's the smoking gun. And if in fact it did have the impact on the Gulf of Aden and draining it all out and everything else, then it's the smoking gun that finally provides the evidence for the aquatic ape theory. I'm UnDaoDu. Thanks for listening. I had to go shopping now and get food for the family.